Help if I did that. Hello, everybody. Calling the meeting to order. Welcome to the meeting of the SDNPA's Policy and Resources Committee. My name's Melanie Hunt, and I'm chair of the committee. Today, I'm really delighted to welcome new members of the committee. We have John Cross, who is an existing member of the authority, but has moved to us from the planning committee. So welcome, John. Vanessa Rowlands, who is now a fully paid up member of the committee, as well as being our chair. Lara Sonola, sorry Lara, who's joined us very recently, in fact at the beginning of the month. And Cameron MacDonald, who's also joined us very recently. And Cameron is one of our co-opted members, designed to bring different perspective onto the board. So very welcome to you. We haven't got our other guests who I am expecting. Bob Baines and Will Anderson will be joining us from the Firle Estate when we come to talk about the WEP. So we will have two visitors to the meeting. I'd just like to remind everyone that members have a primary responsibility for ensuring that the authority furthers the national park purposes and duty, that we all regard ourselves first and foremost as members of the authority and will act in the best interests of the authority and of the park, rather than as representatives of any interest group. To minimise disruption, please could I ask you to switch mobile phones to silent, and if we need to leave during the proceedings, please to leave as quietly as possible. Can I remind members to speak clearly and directly into the microphone, remembering always to switch it on first, and go no closer than 6 inches to avoid feedback. Please remember to turn your microphone off when you finish speaking. And there's penalty points for anyone who has to be told. I'll be counting. Okay, moving on then. Item 1, apologies for absence, please, Richard.
We have received apologies for absence from Peter Diplock, Chris Dowling, Tom Forcade, Teresa Fowler, Sarah Thompson and Stephen Whale.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Richard. Item 2, declaration of interests. Can I ask if any member wishes to declare an interest in relation to any item on the agenda? No? Okay, thank you very much. Item 3, the minutes of the previous P&R meeting. Can I ask you just to turn to the minutes, and I will go through them page by page in case anyone has any particular amendments that you wish to raise. So starting with page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, 11, 12, 13. I'm going to interrupt myself at 13, just to say that on paragraph 559, second bullet, I think there's a 0 missing. Minor detail, but worth correcting. Page 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So members, are you happy for me to sign the minutes as a correct record of last meeting? Can you please indicate? Thank you very much. Okay. Item 4. I don't believe we have any updates on previous committee decisions, do we? No. Okay, thank you. And item 5, are there any urgent matters? No. And item 6, public participation. Has anyone asked to speak to us? No, yet again. One day, somebody will want to come and talk to us. Item 7. In terms of needing to exclude press and public for part 2, we have 2 sets of papers in the pack. Appendix 3 of agenda item 9 and Appendix 4 of item 11. When we get to those agenda items, I'll ask members if you have anything you'd like to raise in the exempt papers, and we'll take a vote on that, and we will move into private session at the appropriate point. Okay. Thank you very much. Item 8, update from me as chair. Three things to report, really. The first one is that at the last meeting, authority was delegated to myself and Laura as Director of Landscape and Strategy to oversee and monitor the project pipeline, as we were calling it, to make sure that we are as efficient as possible in spending our capital allocation this year. And Laura and I have to confer if any project is approved that is over 200,000. We haven't had to make a special arrangement for any project of that size to be approved. However, there's a significant number of projects on the pipeline and a lot of movement and a lot of work by officers ensuring that what is on there is deliverable. The one notable item that is of a greater value than 200,000 is the development of the car park at the Seven Sisters Country Park, and that's just been deferred into next year. So there's been some research work and preparation activity this year, but the bulk of the expenditure will be next year. For your information, and we will talk about it under item 10, but on page 51, appendix 2 of that item, there's the full list of the capital programme pipeline. So we can just have a look at that point, and members can ask any questions. So that's the first bit of my report. The second part, as chair, I attend the Partnership Management Plan Steering Group, which is made up of partners. Sean chairs the meeting. A really good and wide range of partners and representatives from different groups. At the last meeting last week, we reviewed consultation responses from both partners and the public, and they were separated out into 2 different analyses. And amendments have been made to the plan as a result of those responses. There was quite a call for us to be more ambitious in our targets, so more stretching targets have been included in the plan. And then finally, the group discussed developing a delivery partnership for the national park, so that once the partnership management plan is in place, we can actually work together to deliver projects and activities and responsibilities that will help us achieve the targets and aims of the plan. And we had quite a lively discussion about what that partnership should look like, how it should be constituted, how many there might be, a suggestion that there might be a number of subgroups, to look in detail at some of the specialisms that sit underneath each of the aims and objectives. So there was a lively discussion and a lot of commitment to working together going forward. So it's been a very positive group and something that's been great for me to see from the outset. And then finally, as I know you like to know how I spend my time, one of my activities during the summer was to be on the panel that was there to appoint the new Director of Landscape and Operations. Laura will be leaving us sadly at the end of the calendar year. The panel met. We had a very full day with some very strong candidates. Those candidates also met with a panel of the operational management team who gave their views and input, and also had time with Laura as the current post holder, so they could really get to grips with what the role was about. I'm not able to give you the outcome because that's going to be announced at the end of the week, but just suffice to say we had a really excellent field and some really high quality candidates. So looking forward to the end of the week when we can share that with everybody. So that's all from me. Does anyone have any questions? No? Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to item 9 then, the Corporate Risk Register. And I'll ask Richard just to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good afternoon, members. You've got the report before you there on the risk register as well, so I don't propose to go through it in detail. Appendix 1, as usual, is the explanatory information about the risk register, and Appendix 2 is the corporate risk register itself, and then Appendix 3 you have before you a couple of exempt risks because of the information that's contained in them. There are no significant risks to report to the committee, no significant changes to the risks to report since you last considered the risk register. However, you will note there are a number of updates in the register itself on the various risks, and we're very happy to take comments or answer questions on those. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Richard. Can I just ask you, first of all, because we have some exempt information on the risk register, specifically risks 5.2 and 6.1 on our pink papers, can I just ask if any member has any issues they'd like to raise in relation to those exempt items? Thank you very much, 2 members. Okay, can I ask members then, are you content we move into private session? Oh, sorry. Richard needs to summarise the exemption. Then I'll ask you to vote on it. And then we will move into private session at the end of talking about the main paper. Okay.
Sorry, Chair.
Richard.
Thank you. Yes, members, just so that you're aware of the reason. It's set out, the legislative provision is set out on the agenda. But just in summary, the appendix contains information which is proposed is considered exempt as it relates to the financial or business affairs of the authority, in particular the corporate risks that are considered there. There is always a balance here between public transparency, but in this case it's felt that this is outweighed by the needs of the authority to be able to consider its business and its actions in private without information going into the public domain, which could impact our ability to deliver our services. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thanks very much, Richard, and for that reminder as well. So can I ask members, could you give a show of hands if you're content to move into private session at the correct point? Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Okay, if we can go through the risk register, I'll take it risk by risk to sort of frame our discussion. Does anyone have any comments on risk 1.1, staffing? Yes, John.
I didn't know whether to raise this point here or one of the items further down the agenda. I was just looking the staff turnover of 7%. Is there any statistics as to where those staff are leaving? And I just raise that because it's a sort of an early indicator if there's a problem with workflow or with the management style or various other reasons. So is there statistics as to sort of where those staff are leaving, coming and going?
Okay, shall I ask Vicky? James, okay.
Obviously, we've got Vicky coming later from HR, but covering in her absence for the time being. Obviously, in the paper we've got later in terms of the update, you'll see that 7% is actually well below average in terms of the other national parks and outside of that. I know that exit interviews are carried out with staff, and obviously within those we get feedback as to why people are considering moving on and what it might be that's motivated them, any other reflections leaving the organisation, and that information is fed back into the senior leadership team on a regular basis. I can't answer your question specifically. There might be one better for Vicky as to whether we keep a list of the organisations we're moving on to, but there is a feedback loop to make sure we're obtaining that information.
Okay, thank you. Richard, if you just want to add to that, and then I'll move on to Vanessa.
Yes, thank you. I was just going to mention it is picked up in the HR report later on. So section 2, recruitment activity and turnover, it doesn't go into detail, but it gives a summary of some of the reasons why members of staff have left the organisation, whether it be for retirement, personal circumstances, other opportunities. So it may be that as part of that paper, you can ask Vicky for a little bit more information.
Okay, thanks, John. Vanessa?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say that actually churn is quite good. It's quite healthy to have a little bit of turnover. So I don't, no. I didn't want it to feel like we were thinking there was a problem there, but I just, yeah. Thanks, Vanessa.
Anything else on staffing? I did just wonder, at our last meeting, we approved advertising a framework contract for recruitment advertising. And that when that's in place, I'm guessing that will be another mitigation perhaps on the staffing front to make sure that we're reaching a wide range of potential candidates. So I just suggest that for the risk register. If we move on then to risk 2.1, finance and budgets. Clearly we've got the finance paper with a lot of detailed appendices, so we can cover a lot off there. But anything on the risks anyone would like to raise? Okay, income generation, next risk. Any questions here or comments that James might like to pick up? No. Okay, I did just wonder, James, in terms of the description of the impact of the risk is potentially insufficient skills or experience in-house to exploit potential income-generating opportunities. I did wonder whether there's any scope for us to develop a register for call-off contractors, or whether we have something like that in place where we can, if a project comes out, we know we need some extra capacity, we've got some appointed, if you like, people on a register.
Thank you, Melanie. The answer is that that's something we're considering. I think we're looking at the moment about what might be opportunities for us to generate income by delivering services. Obviously, key to that is making sure, first of all, that we've got the structure and the governance right, and that's where our priority is. But we obviously are starting to think about what services might we offer. And then once those are in place, when looking at expansion, in the first instance, we might do that through a number of call-off contracts so that we can see if we can get the critical mass to then employ our own resource to do it. So it's part of the thinking that she'll be coming forward in due course.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. That's really helpful. Thanks. Moving on then, risk 3.1, health and safety. Again, we have this in the paper from HR. 3.2, Seven Sisters, Country Park. Yes, Arthur.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to draw focus to something that the committee's spoken about in the past. I know members, we've discussed it amongst ourselves, and that's the issue on cliff safety. It seems over the summer that the problem of visitor traffic on Seven Sisters and Beachy Head is increased, if anything. It's an ongoing risk that seems to be headed for, well, eventual disaster if it continues as it is. And I wondered what the action plan is. If signs are planned, that's one thing, but then what if the signs are ignored? Is there something that this cliff safety partnership that's mentioned in line 14 is putting together that's going to really meet the level of risk that we're looking at here in the long term?
Mm. Thank you. Unfortunately, Tim's not here today, but I don't know if anyone is able to give any insights into the work with the Cliff Safety Partnership. James?
Well, I can't, but Tim is coming later with Claire, so I just wondered whether maybe, Arthur, we could hold your question until they're here, because you're probably going to get a much richer answer than if we try and do it here without them.
Yeah, great.
Thank you for that. I do have to leave early, so maybe I'll hand that over to my fellow members to have that discussion.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
All I was going to say was that it came up at the recent advisory board meeting, and it is a very salient point. So raising it here is the right place to do so, but it is being discussed at the advisory board as well. We're very concerned about the risks.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think if we can collectively remember to add to that the issue about the mouth of the river as well, and the signage and our partner landowners, just to cover off all of those things with Claire and Tim when they're here. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Yes, Kat.
Could I just sort of on a related point ask again about point 16 and what the road situation is, the crossing? Because it's written here, actively pursuing improvements. But again, like the cliff situation, if somebody actually is killed or a couple of people, the press aren't going to be interested in the fact we're actively pursuing something in the background. It's happened, it's horrific. So I was just wondering where we are with that.
Yeah, the crossing, yeah.
Do you want to answer that now?
If you're able to, just, thank you. Yeah.
So we have, we've been talking to East Sussex Highways, we have acceptance now from them to put it into their work plan, and we've identified funding for that. So now it's been through, we've already done a feasibility study, we're finalising the cost of that and then putting it into design, and it, unfortunately, the way these things work, it will take a couple of years before it's in place, but it will be in place, and there will be a crossing there.
Thank you. And Richard?
Thanks, Chair. I was just going to comment on this as well. It's one of my roles. I'm Chair of the Health and Safety Committee at the moment, and we're very aware that there is this period of time where it will be a while until the crossing is in place. So we've been actively discussing at the committee only recently about what are we doing in the meantime, what mitigations are in place, are we doing as much as we can. So our Health and Safety Officer visits Seven Sisters regularly, and on his next visit down there, this is one of the areas he's particularly going to focus on, is around the crossing, and are we essentially doing all we can at the moment to ensure the safety of the public as they're crossing the road.
Great, thank you. And we'll have Bruno with us later on in the meeting anyway, with the paper on health and safety. So, good, thank you. Moving on then, Seven Sisters Country Park asset ownership. Business continuity planning. Nothing on that. Partnership working and partnership management plan delivery. No. Capital programme and strategic projects. So I've said this is about the risks relating to that. Obviously, we've got the actual projects to consider later on. And devolution. No questions or points on any of those aspects of the risk register. Okay, then I'll move us. Oh, sorry, Vicky.
Yeah, if I can just ask about mitigations, monitoring progress. Councillor colleagues amongst us this morning have been talking about sort of the first of a few deadlines coming up. So in terms of monitoring the progress and updates, what does that look like? Do you wait for the results of the voting in the respective local authorities and just go along with it, or are you informed at an earlier stage, if that makes sense?
I don't know if James can answer that.
Thank you.
Vicky, are you talking about positions on local government reorganisation specifically?
Yes. Sorry, have I confused things already by talking about that? Yeah. I'm mindful of the first deadline on the 26th, people's options for local government reorganisation going back up to government. That is all mopped up in number one in terms of your mitigations, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely relevant and good to ask it here. And we do have a paper coming forward to a future MPA on this. The reality as we see it is that for the national park, the shape of the unitaries doesn't have such an impact on us that we feel we need to take a position, and we feel therefore that that is for others to decide, and we will want to work positively with those unitaries when they take shape. But at the moment our feeling is there isn't an issue significant enough raised by those geographies that would mean we'd need to take a particular view.
Yeah. Thanks very much, James. Yeah, and I do know as a resident of West Sussex in particular, there are proposals, 2 different models that are out there for public consultation as well. 3. Oh yes, sorry, 3. I was thinking of the 2 ways of splitting in 2, but yes, there is the 3rd way, of course. Thank you. Okay, I'll move us now into private session then to consider the risks on our exempt information papers. take a vote on this paper? We're in. Thank you very much. So, members, I'm asking you to please vote on the recommendation that we receive and consider the Corporate Risk Register as at September 2025. All in favour, please? Thank you very much. Mark, are you in favour? Is that okay? Or not? Oh, okay. All right. That's fine. You came in part way through, of course. Yep, just checking. Thank you. Right, moving on then to item 10. We've got the budget monitoring report, and over to Craig for an introduction. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Chair. So good afternoon, everybody. The report presented today is the revenue and capital forecast for month 4 of the 2025-26 financial year. I'll just briefly run through some highlights in the report. So revenue forecast as at month 4 is an above budget variance of £5,000. This position includes many variances of overs and under budget forecasts, and they are outlined in Appendix 1 to the report. The budget variance is assumed to be funded through the working balance, so the MTFS line within the reserves table, and that's been set out and still at the end of the financial year, the reserves are deemed to be in a healthy position, with that particular line being in excess of £1 million available to support the authority over the coming years. Appendix 2 to the report outlines the capital programme, and as has been stated already, there's been a lot of work in ensuring the deliverability of that, and the cost is all reasonable. The current budget for the year is set at £6.7 million, and we are reporting through today there is a net below budget variance of £2.8 million, of which a significant amount will be reprofiled to future years to match the profiling of spend and works as they're made. What this does do is leave £65,000 that the committee are being asked to approve to be funded from the SEAL reserve. This is outside of the DEFRA capital programme funding that we've received, and will reduce the available reserves by the end of the financial year. Those are the real main highlights that I just wanted to bring to your attention. I'll leave it there and open up for any questions that you have.
Thanks very much. Thank you, Craig. Does anyone have any questions about any aspect of the paper or any observations? Stephen.
Section 3.9, and that's the Centurion Way discussion. Mm-hmm. My reading of that then is we're only halfway through the spend, roughly, of the whole thing. Okay. Is that a broader discussion that we might want to have? Maybe not here. It seems to be going on and on.
Yeah. Vicky, can you just respond? Oh, sorry. Stephen, can you click off your microphone? 1 point.
As at the end of 24/5, yes, but we'd spent 2.39 million, and we're expecting to the end of the stage 9 of Centurion Way to have spent 5.1 million. That discussion is that is the situation that I'm reflecting. So if that's a discussion you want to have,
yeah,
that's yeah.
Yeah, Vanessa.
Yeah, with that, I'd really like to know the percentages of what is kind of external funding, because you've got a number of sources here, so it'd be just quite nice to know what that split is as well. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I must admit, I'd read this table as the funding was the amount that we had paid in that year, and the expenditure was what we have paid plus other sources of income. But I may have read that wrongly. Is that correct or not? Vicky?
The expenditure is is everything that we're expecting to have spent throughout the whole life cycle of the project. So could you clarify your question, sorry?
Yes, yeah. Well, I'd read this as the funding column being the amount that the authority has spent in that year, and the expenditure column as being the amount the authority has spent and also the amount that partners have given to us to spend.
No,
So
the funding column was what's everything that's come in, including external funding
Right,
to date, to
okay.
that particular date.
Okay.
So that's the in and the out in those two columns.
Yeah, so just to clarify, sorry, this is probably me being foolish, but bear with me, colleagues. 2017-18, we've got funding of 42,000, but we spent 202,000.
Yes.
Okay, so that has, in effect, come from our reserves?
It would have, or potentially from any underspends from previous years. So in
Right.
a previous year, we had 610, but yeah, see, there's
Yes.
a running balance on there.
So can you just say to me again, at the bottom of the column, the total, 2390, is what we've spent to date?
It's the money we've got in to date.
Right.
Sorry, that's the money we've had available.
We've received to
Yes.
date. But
and
the cost of
the cost
project.
is the total cost for the project. The expenditure is the total
Right,
cost of the
okay.
project.
To 2028,
To 2028?
yes.
Right, which is what was confusing me, because we haven't got a forward line.
No, okay.
26, 27, 27, 28.
That's
Yeah,
right.
okay.
Yeah. And what you see in the capital programme on the appendix
Yeah.
3 or whatever it is on top of the 24/5 figures. So there's
Okay,
another line,
right,
but it's
right.
not complete yet. So
Okay, thank you. Stephen? Oh, Vicky.
sorry.
So my point was, at any time in the project evolution, has anyone sat back and said, we're going to spend £5 million on this project?
Yeah,
That's my
I
question.
don't believe so. I think none of us have that organisational memory. But Sean?
So if I could channel Tim Burr at this point.
Yes, please do.
It is an issue because it's been a project that's taken so long, and because we've done it as funding has come in, we haven't done an overall business case. And it's something that I'm discussing with Vicky now and with Laura, is that we look at that in the round so that we can actually say, okay, so how much are we going to spend in total? How much have we spent? What's our return on investment? What's the projection in terms of the benefits into the future for 10, 20, 30 years? What are the maintenance costs? So we're looking at that at the moment, and it's something we really need to tighten on. I'm pretty confident that it will come out with a pretty positive benefit, but we do need to have the numbers on that overall. So, point taken. And Tim raised this before, and since then we've been working on that.
Great.
I guess the learning is for us, for other projects like this, we sort of look at the cost and payback at the beginning, not when we're halfway through.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Laura?
I think I might just about complicate things here, but I do want to lay out that this thinking, the financial thinking and the planning and the project planning, is known about in the project team. So they do have a number that they report on every time they meet with their governance board, the Centurion Way Governance Board. But what hasn't happened is that overarching benefit, that hasn't been thought about at all. And I'm not sure that this has been discussed at great depth with members at all either. So I do see the value in sitting down and sharing with you the thinking and the variance reporting they do on that original number they have, and then thinking about the benefits that has. It feels like a bit of a workshop to me.
Yes. Yeah.
And an opportunity to challenge and ask questions, for sure.
Thank you very much, Laura. So I think there's possibly 2 points at which a member workshop might usefully cover off this. One is our budget planning workshops that we have, and the other is we are due a project development and management workshop. So either of those would be good opportunities for us to talk about this in more depth, I think. So, you happy with that, Sean? Or not? Do you want to say something else?
Absolutely. And if you had time to look at the job description for Laura's successor, a key part of that is to really work on those things. So possibly the second one of those, I might suggest we do once that person is in post as well, so that they can really take that forward.
Yeah.
I thought you'd like that, Laura.
Yes. John?
Going to page 53, the Midhurst shoring up works. Do we have any idea of when we're going to get the funding back from the insurers? Do we get an indication of when they're going to start moving and get the scaffolding down off Midhurst High Street? Are we sure we're going to get our money back?
Yeah. Vicky, happy to take that. Happy is the wrong word, I know.
The case has been with the Insurance Ombudsman for about 2 years now, I believe. So we're still battling on, and I'm unclear about when the finish date's likely to be. I can't really update on any more than that, I'm afraid.
John?
Well, the second part of that question, are we sure we would get our money back? And the other point I was going to make is I was looking at the long list of funds going here, there and everywhere. The one that sticks out, which I have no idea where it is grandfather's bottom. I have no idea where that is and what it is. Well,
okay.
Yeah, anyway,
we'll save that. Yeah, I won't ask Vicky to answer the second, but I just any idea at all whether we're hopeful of retrieving some of our money?
We are engaging with the people who are insured and their insurers.
Yeah.
They know about the case that we're putting to them.
Yeah.
I'm afraid I can't suggest what the outcome's likely to be.
No. Thank you very much, Vicky. Thanks for that. And also thanks for the work in trying to make sure that we are reimbursed, because it was definitely an important gesture that the National Park made to try and keep the High Street open in Midhurst. So, yeah, I don't feel we should be punished for that.
Tim might have a more detailed answer.
Yes, yeah, Tim might have a more detailed answer when we get to see him later. Okay, any other comments? Yes, Kat.
I've raised this before, so sorry if I'm repeating myself. But you know, on page 58, where we've got the section 106, we've got receipts reserve, and then we've got statutory interest on those receipts, and there are two different figures. And when I say that the interest on statutory receipts is actually larger than the number of section 106 receipts we've currently got, so it's 586,000. I asked a while ago whether the interest on those receipts had to be tied to a 106 expenditure, and I think you went back and got legal advice which said it didn't. So I was just wondering what the thinking is with it sitting there still, because presumably we could move it into a different account and use it as capital, or have we decided on balance that maybe the legal opinion was slightly grey and it would be safer to leave it there? I just wondered, because it's a really huge sum of money. So.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Kat. I don't know, Craig, you able to advise us on the use that can be made of that interest?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as far as I'm aware, the Section 106 interest is appended to particular receipts coming in, and we've had to hold it there for those reasons. What I'd suggest is that we can take some time to review what actually is making up that balance and see if there's anything that can be released and used, and if there's any time constraints on any of that receipt, the interest being held. So yeah, maybe given a thorough review of it ahead of the next P&R meeting, see if we can release any of that.
Yeah, I think that would be really helpful, especially given the good Treasury management performance as well that your team has secured. So thank you for that. Any other comments? Jerry?
Thank you. Just on that last point, I thought we'd agreed once before in these meetings that, yes, Section 106 interest was in effect in escrow with the 106, but that SIL interest, which again is quite a large number, can transfer into the revenue fund. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So SIL for the year 24-25 was part of the year-end position in revenue. So the balance on the reserves line there for the SIL funding is not inclusive of any interest.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? I've just got a little note here from Richard saying, because we didn't answer the second part of John's question, grandfather's bottom is at Butser Hill. And it's a valley. Yes, James.
I just thought you might like to know that the full title of that project is Revealing Grandfather's Bottom.
Thank you, James. I wonder who thought of that title. Yeah, yeah, you're not taking responsibility. Okay. Yes, Craig.
Sorry, just to come in as well, I'd just correct what I'd said in the introduction to the report. On one of the recommendations, I'd said that the committee were to approve the use of 65,000 from SEAL for the capital spend. I believe it's actually a recommendation to MPA.
I was just going to ask Richard about that. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. Yes, we're not allowed to approve the use of reserves. We have to recommend to the MPA. So I'll ask Richard in a moment just to explain that revised. Oh, have you done?
It's already amended on the report. And on
Okay.
Can I just
It
check
is.
something?
Yes, Sean.
Craig, you just said 65,000. This says 0.65 million.
Oh, it should be 0.065.
That's 650,000. Which one is it? Can I just check?
That's a typo. It's 65,000.
Yeah.
Phew.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Right, so can I ask you, colleagues, are you content to approve all of the aspects of the recommendation 1 to 5? Indicate, please, if you are. Thank you very much. Thank you, unanimous. Moving on to item 11. And I'm delighted to welcome Amanda Craig, who's here on behalf of our internal auditors. It's your first solo appearance here, isn't it? You've normally got Mark with you, so welcome. And colleagues, as ever, just to remind you, we also have exempt papers in relation to this particular item as well. So, Amanda, would you like to just say a few words of introduction?
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Amanda Craig. I'm a Principal Auditor in our Orbis Internal Audit team, just to introduce myself to the new members here, so hello. It's my pleasure to introduce our Internal Audit Progress Report for this quarter. I'm going to take the report as read, but I just want to highlight a few key areas within it. And I'd also like to thank all officers who've been involved with our internal audit work, because without their support and assistance, we wouldn't be able to produce any of the work for the internal audit plan and provide some assurance to committee itself. So, in going through the report, we've completed 2 audits for this quarter. So that's 2 audits from our 25-26 internal audit plan. That is Treasury Management, which received substantial assurance, and Corporate Governance that received reasonable assurance. I would also like to indicate to committee what audits we have going that are ongoing at the moment. So we've started Capital Accounting and Impact of Savings Plans, which was originally called Organisational Resilience, both of which have started and are nearing the end of their fieldwork stage, so should be able to be reported at next committee. And we're due to start income processing very soon, as well as the cybersecurity follow-up, which is due to commence in Q3, so October, which puts us in a really good place to be able to complete our audit plan for this financial year, hopefully before March, but not to jinx anything. And then also just to highlight to committee, we do have our action tracking in Appendix 3 and the Part 2. In asking officers to update us on the implementation of actions it's in a better position than when we reported last quarter. So more actions have been implemented and there are fewer that are outstanding. I'm happy to take any questions on the report. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Amanda. And just before we dive into the paper, can I check to see if anyone has any issues you'd like to raise in relation to the exempt papers? I will just ask, Richard, do you need to explain again why?
If anybody does want to go in, yes.
Yes. Okay. Does anyone wish to go into private session? Yes. Thank you very much. So I'll ask Richard to explain and then we'll take a vote on going into private session.
Thank you, Chair. So again, the legislative provision for this is the same as it was for the risk register, and it's again set out in the appendix. It's due to the papers containing exempt information on the financial or business affairs of the authority, in this case, the audit results and actions, the public interest. Again, there is this always the consideration of transparency, but it is again considered that this is outweighed for the need for us to be able to consider our business and actions in private without the disclosure of this information to the public. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Richard. So can I just ask for a show of hands on going into private session at the appropriate point in this item? Thank you very much indeed. Okay, so we'll now look at the paper, substantive paper, and happy to take any questions or comments from colleagues around either of the two audits that have been completed. I think the Treasury Management audit is really pleasing, so well done to Craig and the team for that. As we said on the last paper, the performance is looking good anyway, well above sector performance, so that's excellent. And we've got corporate governance as well. Any questions or comments on those? Kat?
Thank you. I just had two on sort of really tightening up our ship. So I noticed that on page 70, sort of paragraph 4.6 and 4.7, it was noted that there was a sort of a lack of us getting a second officer to confirm a reconciliation, and I think it had been recommended before, but it's still sort of not been undertaken. So I just feel if that's been flagged once, and we should just get onto this. I don't know whether there's a reason for it, but I think it should just be flagged and maybe looked at, so maybe then next year we don't have. I mean, obviously it's not affecting our overall performance, but, and a similar point on page 72 under the corporate governance, paragraph 4.7 and 4.8 about there being a lack of regular review of, sorry, I can't read it, I haven't got my glasses on.
It's about the policy review,
Yes,
isn't it?
yes, sorry.
Yes, and expiry
Yes.
dates.
But again, a similar point that I don't think it's affecting anything crucially, but I think it's probably been flagged once or twice, and we just need to raise it up our list because I think both of them are easily rectified.
Yes. Thank you, Kat. I'd agree with you. They're not substantive concerns, but clearly they are good practice or medium recommendations. I don't know whether, Craig, you wish to say anything about the second officer confirming reconciliation?
Yeah, no, that was been raised with the team, and I've spoken to the principal accountant. They've put in process in place to make sure that there's a review of the reconciliation when it's been complete. So that is now being actioned. I think it just needs to be recorded next time it comes around.
Thank you very much. And Richard, in terms of policy review?
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Chair. Happy to comment on that. Yeah, so as part of the audit, as we were going through that, we reviewed how we were monitoring policies across the variety of them that we have, because we do have quite a number of policies internally. So our operational management team now reviews the spreadsheet of policies and their expiry dates on a 6-monthly basis. I'm also going to be including this as part of the consideration of the annual governance statement, so that when it comes before you each year, you can receive assurance as the committee that that regular review of policies is being done as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much, Richard. I just had a question on the actions with regard to the corporate governance audit. And there's a number there which I know you've got in hand. I've got two questions about member training, because I recall that we were advised that we should undertake anti-fraud and corruption policy training, and also treasury management training. And I just like your reassurance that we've got those kind of in hand or on our schedule.
I think the Treasury Management training is scheduled for one of the sessions around the budget setting, I believe. I can double check that. I'm just about to republish our anti-fraud policy as well, which has training embedded in that. And I've got to get the training first and then it can be rolled out.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you. I mean, I have received that in another organisation. It's really, really helpful training. It just alerts everyone to the potential risks. So if I could just make a plea that members' training does include those things, clearly because they've both been recommended by auditors. Thank you. Any other comments on the paper substantively? Otherwise, we'll move into private... Oh, sorry, Stephen.
Page 73, the overdue actions. There's two there. Are there any updates? Are we getting any closer to implementing those?
Yeah. Do.
Stephen,
Oh, two.
Unfortunately, our facilities and property manager has recently moved on, so we haven't got that post right now, but we are taking forward the issue with the contractors, with the health and safety officer. So that should be resolved fairly soon. I'm going to have to refer that one to Claire, I'm afraid, because that's not something that I get involved with on at this site, and I know that she's the one who's been taking that forward. The asset issue is a very long piece of work, and we've got dumps from our software that is telling us what our situation is, and we're reconciling that to the ledger. It is a work in progress.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Vicky. Okay, so we're reassured that all the actions are at least in hand and underway. Can I move us into private session then, please, for us to consider Appendix 4 of item 11? Thank you very much. So could I ask for a show of hands in relation to the recommendation? Who is in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, moving on to item 12, and over to Amanda again for a few words.
Thank you, Chair. So this is an update to committee around our self-assessment against the new global internal audit standards and also our quality assurance and improvement programme. So hopefully the report is clearly laid out to provide yourselves with an explanation of the work that we've done and why we've done it, but I'm just going to give a bit of a background and a bit of context to yourself. The report is being presented to this committee in order for yourselves, because one of the remits is that you need to satisfy yourselves that your internal audit arrangements are robust. And a way that we do this as an internal audit service is to assess ourselves against our standards. So I think I've mentioned at previous committees that we were adhering to the public sector internal audit standards, which were replaced by a global set of standards of April this year. We as a service undertook a self-assessment against the new standards, and because we'd previously been conforming with the public sector internal audit standards, we found that there weren't any major gaps, and there was minimal activity that was needed for us to conform with these new set of standards. So the report outlines in Appendix 1 the high-level overview of the titles of the standards within the Global Internal Audit Standards, and we've also included a link within the report if you wanted to read the Global Internal Audit Standards, but they are 130 pages, so just to let you know that. And then following on from Appendix 1, we have Appendix 2, which is our Quality Assurance and Improvement Programme that has been set out, which is areas of opportunities for improvement within our service. It's called a Quality Assurance and Improvement Plan, because that's the terminology that is used in the standards as well. Most of these are underway. There are 2 that we reported as outstanding. Number 11, which is around our service objectives, I can confirm has been completed and is now implemented. And all activity is due to complete by March 2026. And then if I just highlight Appendix 3 as well, this is our updated internal audit charter. So previously and earlier this year, we asked committee to review and approve our internal audit charter, which is our terms of reference for how we provide internal audit service to yourselves. The charter has been updated because it was one of the requirements of the standards, and there hasn't been significant change between the charter that was presented to yourselves earlier this year and this charter. It is just an update, really, in terminology in order to align with the global standards. Hopefully that's helpful, but I'm happy to take any questions on the report. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Amanda. Thank you. Any questions or comments, colleagues? Must admit, I found this really helpful. I think the Quality Assurance Improvement Plan was really clear and very simple, and it's reassuring that our internal auditors are meeting the GIAS. I just had a couple of very minor points. That in terms of the improvement plan on page 81, item 12, the internal auditors to maintain a separate formal internal audit risk assessment. I just wondered whether members and officers, of course, will see that risk assessment as part of the internal audit planning process for 26/7, or whether that's something that's held by the internal auditors confidentially. That was my main question.
Thank you. So the risk assessment at the moment is in development in order to formalise it. I know that there was a planned workshop around audit planning with members as well, which is something that we could potentially discuss as part of that, if that would be helpful.
Yeah, That would be really helpful.
Thank
You
you.
very much. Thanks, Amanda. And on action 25 on page 82, just to say that as Audit Committee Chair, I'm very willing to provide direct input if required and if agreed with officers. Okay. Anything else? Oh, and I have one final point. On page 85, this is a real nitpicky apostrophe nerd point. In the last line, I think the authority's vision needs to be an ITY apostrophe S. That's all. Okay. I do apologise for that. Okay, so the recommendations we have in front of us. Can I ask for a show of hands, please? All those in favour? Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Thank you, Amanda. Thanks for coming along. Thank you. Right, we'll just have a little break while we wait for our Firle Estate colleagues to join us. If you would like to have a comfort break, we'll reconvene at past, so they have a chance to come down and settle in. Okay. Okay, colleagues, we've returned to our live stream, so we'll make a start on the second part of the agenda. I'm really delighted to welcome Bob Baines and Will Anderson from the Firle Estate, and of course Mark Alden, who's going to take us through the Firle Estate WEP. We will all have a chance to ask questions and make comments on the document. I shall just hand over to Mark for a few words of introduction.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I'm really happy to introduce my report to you today. It can be found on page 91 of the print pack. I'll take it as read, so I won't be personally going through it in detail with you now. What I would like to do, though, is bring members' attention to two inaccuracies in the report. The first is regarding the first member site visit stated in the report as being held on the 18th of March 2020. It's come to my attention that this member site visit was actually cancelled the night before due to COVID restrictions. So therefore, where referenced in the report, this should now read scheduled and subsequently cancelled rather than held. The second inaccuracy relates to the commencement date of the exceptional circumstance third consultation. As stated in the report, it states commenced on the 9th of May and ends on the 6th of June. Where referenced, those days should actually read commenced on the 11th of June 2025 and ended on the 9th of July 2025. I'd now like to pass over to Will from the estate team, who's going to take us through an explanation of the WEP journey, and then we'll hand over to Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Hello. I've been working on this plan for the Firle Estate and engaged with the officers of the South Downs National Park since 2019. This is a significant period, so it feels important to explain briefly our role and the whys and hows of the process. My grandparents moved to Firle in 1958. I'm now bringing up a young family in the village as an estate tenant and as an estate design consultant. And our timings for the estate plan were set by two factors. First, postponement by a year of your members' visit and consultation due to COVID policies. And second, a strategic pause of 3 years whilst Estate Director Bob and his new management took on, appraised and assessed the ground. Through the periods of our activity in this timeline, my partners and I worked to make the estate plan useful. We sort of imagined it as almost a manual or a field guide, using our diagrams, maps, and photographs with wide consultation and lots of local knowledge. As many as possible of the fascinating pieces or parts that make up the estate's landscape have been considered, explained, and set out in an order to tell the contemporary tale of Firle, following the structure and expectations set by your whole estate plan. I know now that Bob will expand on the opportunities this plan allows, and I'd like to seriously thank Mark and Nick for their support, most sincerely.
Thanks, Will. Hi, everyone. And I think the first thing I'd like to do actually is to echo that with a sincere thanks to Mark and, of course, Nick, who, me having been involved for the last 4 years, have just been incredibly supportive and helpful with the whole process throughout that period. So thank you, and it's great to get here today. The Gage family are privileged to have had the stewardship of such a special place and precious resource now for over 500 years. I joined Firle in what is essentially the blink of an eye sort of 4 years ago now to help the Gage family to build a Firle Estate employed team
after having been managed by Savills for a number of years, and lead the estate through the next stages of its long evolution. And for that reason, when I arrived in Firle, the first thing I did was pause the whole estate plan. It felt very backward to work on a strategy after having endorsed a sort of public plan and sort of document. So we did it the right way around. We looked at our strategy, and then we got back to the estate plan with some encouragement and help. But like the generations before them, these generations of the Gage family that I work with recognise the importance of their stewardship role in this landscape. Through the current challenges like biodiversity loss, climate change, and all the economic pressures that come from just being in the southeast of England, we recognise the science-proven value that nature and green spaces bring, and the need to reverse the decline and protect them and share them, but while still ensuring we maintain a vibrant community and we're capable of playing our part in sustainable economic growth. Challenges like biodiversity loss and climate change are, of course, enormous. But as we all know here, so are the opportunities to halt and reverse them. And big challenges and opportunities like this require joined up resources, leadership, and partnerships that align those in pursuit of what are often similar goals. And I think whole estate plans are a wonderful example of focusing resource through partnership and leadership, both in terms of the South Downs National Park and its teams spearheading and promoting the whole estate plan process, and at a more local level, an estate's leadership sort of setting out what the challenges are and opportunities on their patch, and as an organisation stating how it intends to play its part in meeting those challenges and taking advantage of those opportunities. I think for both organisations, it's also an opportunity for clear communication between them, developing the relationship, as well as with other significant stakeholders and our various communities all coming together to make these things happen. I spent several years of my career as a land manager in Scotland, learning the politics around landed estates there. It's a bit of an eye-opener, actually. And whilst the southeast of England is a very different place economically, I'm a great believer that English estates too can benefit from demonstrating how they can achieve more as the whole of what would otherwise be constituent parts, and a landscape subject to the pressures of what might otherwise be short-termism. Our hope for a ratification of the plan today represents what's been a significant commitment of time on both sides and resource, and the culmination of a lot of work, thinking and discussion. But of course, the challenges and opportunities we face are a moving feast, and therefore it will need to remain very much a live document as we all continue to sort of learn and navigate the future. But finally, on behalf of Firle Estate, I would like to thank the Park for its leadership on this initiative and say that we look forward to continue working together in the spirit of partnership. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Will and Bob, for those few words. If I might say, I really enjoyed reading this WEP, and I enjoyed it from a number of angles, really. Having lived in and around the area for a very long time, I enjoyed the storytelling aspect of it. As a former geography teacher, I could see that this would be a fantastic resource for geography students, and you might consider that when you're thinking about some of your activities that you'd like to do as an estate. As you've said, and I can see absolutely, it's a manual, it's a guide for how to go forward for all of the different partners who have a role to play. And it very definitely is a living document that is really shows the leadership that the estate is bringing to the table. So I'd like to thank everybody for all of that effort and that work that's gone in. And I have to say I felt quite humbled when I read, and you reiterated, the Gage family's been there for 500 years. The National Park's been here for 15. And yet the family is working with us as the newbies in the interests of the future. And I think that's really important. So thank you very much for that. So I'd like to open up to colleagues for any comments or questions on the paper. Vanessa.
Thank you. Thanks, Will and Bob, for coming in. That's great. I just wanted to talk about the communities, because you touched upon that, Bob. There's obviously, I just immediately think of Firle, and it's such a special community. But obviously, there's Berwick as well, and Selmerston and Alceston. And your list of the consultations and engagement that you did with those places, could you kind of expand on what that kind of look like? I'm just really interested to know how, because they are quite particular communities and they really care so passionately about where they live. And I would just love to understand how you went about that. Thank you.
Thanks, Vanessa. I will introduce the process we did at the very end, and Bob, I think if you want to follow on with any more public consultation that then came second. What we did actually was essentially do a SWOT analysis. We asked a series of questions that I haven't got to hand now, but there were about 15 points that worked through landscape, facilities, links, access, demographics, and we essentially asked for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats on each of those points. They were given as almost a bit of homework 2 months before. I printed out a set of documents, gave it to each parish council and each parish meeting for all of those 5 communities, and asked them for 2 months to consider it. Met them once, went through their answers, came back again, and then discussed their answers again, and then typed up a transcript of both meetings. Those transcripts then sat, as we were writing the report, as basically a piece of primary resource that we drew upon as we were trying to work out how to structure the estate plan. The estate plan's main body was called an audit asset, or an asset audit. So our challenge was how to break down an asset audit into a story that navigated all the areas we needed to. And so the main parts of our community consultation fell in the 5th chapter, which was communities in the landscape. So the first answer was really engaged evening meetings with parish meetings and parish councils by giving them things to consider, recording, and then revisiting and re-recording, and then using that as a resource. We then followed that up with a public consultation, which I can ask you to explain.
Yeah, so I asked Will to sort of answer that question to start with, because he's been the sort of continuity in this process over the years. When we revisited the document, we were obviously conscious that a bit of time had gone past. But actually, we were sort of fairly satisfied with the sort of the depth that had been gone into sort of first time round, around the COVID period. So actually what we did was we had a public consultation one evening at the RAM, which you might be familiar with, for 4 hours, and we pulled out parts of the plan for people to come in and have a look at and comment on and raise their sort of questions or concerns. And I get the impression that you understand Furl a little bit, because they are quite a vocal community. And certainly part of my role has been overseeing a sort of period of change on the estate. So actually that process came a couple of years into that sort of change process. So the consultation has been sort of informal and formal, and those conversations are sort of running on a daily basis in Furl. I think the other thing is that, like lots of areas, the community isn't one thing. It is a mix of different communities, and in Furl you have what I call the old sort of farming rural community, and you know, ex-estate workers and that sort of thing. You have a sort of a more of a sort of commuter belt type owner-occupier in some of the surrounding villages who see things quite differently again. And then we have, you know, a community who bought into Furl sort of 15, 20 years ago. The current log gauge's sort of particular way of doing things. And so I think you've got lots of different people who see the place in quite different ways. And I think what we've tried to do is stick to the sort of the key touchstones in terms of you know, estates are historically sort of quite private organisations, but actually a lot of the factors and challenges that we're facing are very well known. For the things that are likely to be contentious, like areas for development, are fixed. You know, they are brownfield farmyard sites, yeah, I think we've just used the plan as a way of sort of formalising our. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Oh, did you want to come back, Vanessa?
Yeah, I'm just interested if that process helped kind of build some more cohesion between everybody, and was it a positive process? I mean, how? Sorry, I'm really interested.
Yeah, I think it was a positive process, because it has to be right, talking and sort of communicating, and you know, even if you're you know, in a position where you're not saying things that people necessarily want to hear, or you're not able to give them the answers, because my experience is people quite often want to get straight into detail. You know, what's happening there behind my house or up the road from me. I think what we were particularly pleased with that more recent consultation was that we got a lot of people from the other parts of the estate, the other villages. We had a good attendance from Alceston and from Selmerston, and you've met some of the community in Furl. I think sometimes in Furl there's a tendency to forget that the estate is a wider geography that includes, you know, 4, possibly sort of 5 villages, depending on what you count, and albeit that Furl is certainly the more vocal one.
Interesting. John?
Just picking up on a point that Will made, sorry, too close. You said this was very useful primary evidence. So did you use that primary evidence as supporting what you were thinking, because you presented the community with a series of questions, or did it mean that what you presented was part of the story, and that the community were able to add other things that you hadn't considered, and so it broadened your understanding of where the community was coming from? And if that's the case, where would you give a good example of where the community positively improved this plan, and perhaps where it was challenging for you to hear something from the community that perhaps you didn't want to hear?
Thanks, John. I was thinking the one thing I'd also add that it wasn't just, I think, using the word community as a singular, it wasn't just parish councils, it was also all the businesses and the farming tenants, which I didn't expand on in my answer to Vanessa. So it was a web of consultation at that early stage, all, as you say, gathering primary resource. Because I grew up in the village and the estate and knew the area, it was quite useful to pretend I didn't know anything and to then ask very obvious questions of everyone. So that was from the village school headmistress, that was from the chairman of the Bonfire Society, that was from the major recycling business on the edge of Lewis. So I tried to build up a resource that was that was honest to what I was hearing, that therefore wasn't sort of biased towards my presumptions as someone who grew up in the village. I think the honest answer to I found it a very positive experience. I think there are numerous little things one discovered from that. There are tiny examples that maybe are actually some of the most important. Everyone's got a major concern of walking from one part of the village to another part of the village to get to a children's bus stop, but there isn't a footpath. How are there? There are 3 or 4 routes to do that, and they all have got different cost implications. That's obviously a little micro detail. But I suppose because most of these villages, apart from Alciston, hadn't done a parish plan or a neighbourhood plan, and I don't want to say that I wrote a neighbourhood plan for them, but I did try and almost, I am chair of a charity called Action Rural Sussex, and used to volunteer with them writing neighbourhood plans. I've been through quite a few neighbourhood planning consultation processes, and some of the tools or ways of looking at the village were probably quite similar in those early parish council meetings. I think we picked up a lot of detail that was probably quite similar to a parish plan, like concerns about footpaths, concerns about communication on affordable housing policies, obvious concerns about small village schools. My daughter's now in the second year at the village school, and there are 4 children in her year. A lot of that I knew about, but it had to be recorded, and then where it is a record we have, and the pertinent points we put into the plan. There is also a challenge in the estate plan, not making it too long. We had to remove quite a few pages because it was becoming a very, very heavy document. So we are always trying to draw out the key points. To directly answer your question, I think there are numerous live issues. I think what were some of the things that came out as key that we listened to? Parking, congestion, pressure on villages. A really interesting live conversation about comparing, let's say, Firle to Alfriston, which is a much more commercial village. Obviously, it's much bigger. It was a sort of medieval market town. It has a high street. But there's an obvious commerciality in the kind of village-scape. It also has these sort of facilities to allow coaches, large numbers of people. What's Firle's opinion on that as a community? So Bob and I are ongoing this year talking to parish councils, sports clubs, all the various little stakeholders in our little parish about what to do about parking. And there are conceptual there are conversations right now about if you provide more parking, do more people come, and do you make the same problem bigger and worse, or not, or where, or how? I don't think I can give you. I think that's a good example of a live conversation that's touched upon in the estate plan, which has so many implications and does need some solutions.
Thank you. Vicky.
Thank you. It's great to see such a concise and honest WEP as well. The duty of care I'm just making some notes. Duty of care to nature is it sings out from this, and the response to the biodiversity crisis. So I think that's really inspiring. And also you explicitly highlight challenges, and you're really candid about the leap of faith needed to achieve some of your aspirations, especially around soil and water quality improvement. So I just wondered, can you speak more to the extent of this leap of faith? Do you anticipate resistance to any new methods or practices? And have you got a plan when and if that happens, of if the faith wobbles with this new way of working with nature? Thank you.
Yeah, I think, again, in the spirit of complete honesty, I think for me the interesting thing was that I arrived at an estate that needed to do things differently and had some structural changes it needed to make as a business. And therefore, when I realised I was coming to the South Downs, my first thought was, excellent, I can learn about vineyards and plant a vineyard somewhere. But soon realised that actually I wasn't going to get to do that for a few years, or lots of other exciting things. And I think in some ways, again, hopefully, the sort of the environmental side and all of those very live issues in the countryside at the moment were sort of ones that we were very cognizant of, but ones that we weren't, as a business and organisation, inevitably constricted by funding and that sort of thing, quite able to get as close to and do as much on as we wanted to. So I think the whole estate plan was an opportunity for us to sort of set out our aspiration. We were quite keen to make sure that we sort of set out clearly what that aspiration was, but without setting ourselves up for failure either. But when I started my career 20 years ago, 25 years ago, the farming and land management world, environmental management, biodiversity, was sort of seen slightly as the sort of the realms of sort of tree hugging. Now there aren't many farmers you can talk to, including on the estate, who actually don't have a really good knowledge of the importance of soil health, soil structure. Even the ones that are not quite as environmental as we might like them to be still understand sort of where they fit into it and where they might need to go in the future. We have done a bit of sort of base level work as part of this exercise, slightly in some ways accidentally actually. But what's great is that actually that's kicked that side of things off. One of the great challenges that I often talk to Mark and Nick about is actually the cost of building up some of this baseline information in order that you then have a platform to sort of leap from and measure yourself from. To do a basic survey across the state that is meaningful, I mean, it could quite easily be sort of £30,000, £50,000, without really trying. And then, we have lots of aspirations linking our woodland parcels with green corridors and new planting. And I don't think there's any land managers or farmers that I've met who don't love to see nature in all of its guises. But it does have to be paid for. So again, I think some of the conversations I expect to be having with the National Park as a planning authority in the future are, look, I think I can get the biodiversity of this landscape from here to here, but actually I think I'm going to need a compromise in this area in order to be able to pay for it. And so I think those are some of the interesting conversations we might be having in the future.
Mm.
Thank you. Any other questions? Stephen?
I thought it was a great web, a really good read as well. So thank you very much. I noticed a few times in it you were talking about encouraging farmers to implement regenerative farming and carbon capture and so on. Do you have a method to do that? Do you walk around to your farmers and talk to them individually, or do you get them together in a group to discuss these things? What's your process? Oh, done it again.
Three strikes and you're out.
Yeah.
I think you better leave now.
I didn't know what a green flashing light meant. Yeah. Oh. Our farmers are part of, and I've had a blank on the name of the terminology, but they are part of a group.
Clusters.
Yeah, they are heavily involved in sort of the local sort of farm cluster group. We don't have that forum at the moment, and I think that is part of sort of where we would like to get to. But actually, I think that will soon be actually us being part of that farm cluster, and then also part of other things that we're slightly on the edge of at the moment, like the sort of the Wheeled to Waves initiative, where we've, as an estate, been very much in listening mode, and where some of our other neighbouring estates are a bit further ahead because they're just in a different sort of part of the business or life cycle to us. And we have a variation of farmers. We have all of the different extremes. We have at one end of the estate, organic, certified farmer, heavily into everything regenerative, and right through to some quite commercial, traditional, in some ways, farmers who are using a bit more of concoctions that we'd all prefer they weren't using, or who are just a bit less forward-thinking and perhaps won't their businesses won't survive the next sort of 20 years. But I think those conversations are there to be had, and in some ways, the plan and us finally getting a document out there that states our position on a lot of different areas is that that is to some extent the sort of first part of then having those conversations.
Okay, thank you. Any further? Yes, Jerry. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'd echo what others have said. A really fascinating read, not least because I'm from the opposite end of the park from you. Most of our large estates, large houses, didn't survive being trashed by Americans before D-Day. So we don't have many large estates there which are able to take the sort of focus you can across half a dozen small communities, small villages or whatever. And one thing that it's taught me is that there is a model, and I make no small p political comment on the nature of how the estate came into being or whatever, but it is probably a more effective way of running that rural area and those rural communities than anything we have at my end of the park. And it's fascinating to see the level of aspiration you have in the plan and how you have the ability as an estate to organise moving forward against that aspiration. So thank you very much for the read, and I look forward to seeing your progress in the coming years.
Thanks, Jerry. Kat?
Just echoing how much I enjoyed reading it, and also I'm from the other end of the park, and sort of the way you took us through your estate, I sort of feel I visited it, so that's quite nice with all your maps and photographs. I just wanted to ask on the final bit, I really liked how you've laid out your estate aspirations and then the coloured key with a sort of vague outline of when the outcome may be achieved. Underlying all of those sort of time, I appreciate they'll be quite vague because, you know, it's a difficult area. Do you have a more sort of concrete sort of measurement and steps in place and costing? Because, I mean, overall, to achieve this, I mean, I can't even imagine what the figures would be. So presumably, as you're going through changing things over the years and bringing in different practices, you're going to have some sort of measures as to whether this is going in the right direction, or whether maybe we will speak to the National Park again and explain how maybe this should be a priority over that. I just wondered what was underlying the sort of coloured dots and timelines.
Well, I think we've been deliberately vague, in case you hadn't worked that out. And what would I say? I mean, Mark asked me a question about governance, and I said, well, you know, the estates are essentially family businesses, and everything I know about family businesses is that there tends to be a good level of sort of dysfunction and a lack of governance. It's actually one of the reasons I quite enjoy working for them. But because the flip side of that is you can get stuff done, and you can get to the decision makers, and you don't have to wade through all of that process. Phil had some. Lord Gage is 91. He has largely handed over to sort of the next generation now. But his tenure was a very sort of strong and sort of particular one, and and his voice is still very strong, and therefore, you know, in my position, you can't always be certain as to how quickly you will achieve certain things. Certainly on the environmental side, it's always very difficult to say, I've got a great idea, why don't we spend £50,000 on biodiversity surveys and bits and pieces, and you know there isn't an immediate commercial return. So some of those things do have to sort of follow, and you do almost have to commercially find excuses to work at them. And we've got a couple of projects coming up that I hope will pay for some more of that stuff, which I've hinted to Tim and Mark about. And then of course everything takes a long time. The planning process takes an awfully long time. No names mentioned. And estates are big ships. They take a long time to turn. They don't do handbrake turns and change overnight well. As you know, my first year or two in Firle and our vocal community sort of let us know, you know, change comes slowly, but I think what I do feel confident is that, you know, we if we are back here in 5 years' time, you know, there will be progress on many of these points that we can all point to and be quite pleased with. Okay.
Thank you. John.
Reading through the document, there's various points when you talk about the built landscape. Excuse me. There's lots of listed buildings and buildings that have of historic international importance, and I didn't see in the document anything about, and this is my own curiosity really, no criticism of the document, about the skill sets that are required to maintain and to do the work to those historic buildings. First of all, do you have trouble in finding that skill base? And on the estate, is there any plan? Because I think of other estates, I think of Goodwood and the Leconfield estate, where they actively have apprentices in different trades to bring them on, so that there is a new generation of craftspersons coming along to do the different tasks that the broader community and particularly the estate need.
I think the short answer to that is that when I got to Firle and started talking about lime plaster, it was very much a swear word to the foreman of the time. And I soon realised that he didn't want to go on the same heritage journey that I wanted to with the portfolio there. I think what we've had to do is build those skills and that knowledge base. A lot of estates of our size don't tend to have big internal teams anymore. Historically, they're a bit of a recipe for tea breaks and inefficiency. But what we do have is some great contractors that we work with. We never have enough of the contractors that we want. But one thing that Will, as an architect we use, has been very good at is, as we've moved from project to project, we've actually developed these skills amongst some of the builders and people that we use. So when we ask for a cottage to have, when we specify lime plaster on the internal walls or even external walls, they know what they're doing. They've done it. They're not frightened of it. They don't think it's a load of hocus pocus. But again, I still think that's a bit of a journey as we get around the sort of the portfolio and meet some of the challenges. There are enormous heritage challenges. I mean, it costs 100,000 to refurbish a 2-bedroom cottage now. We've got farmhouses that you could quite easily spend 300,000 or 400,000 refurbishing. There's no economic way of doing that. But certainly we see one of our key roles as preserving our sort of heritage portfolio and getting better at that, and that does mean having the right skills in-house. I'd like to be a bit closer to Weald Downland. Yes, any recommendations sort of taken. Thank you.
Chair, could I add a small bit of that? A very short comment just to say, I think when this plan was started, there probably hadn't been any lime paint or any lime plaster used in a number of residential renovations. I think there's, it's interesting your question, because I think we're very, very, very much on the cusp and have taken, as Bob said, the first few steps to building up that level of expertise. There's one issue, which is that the existing experienced contractors who have the word heritage in front of them come with a premium, which doesn't match the budget on a small renovation. So we have been working with small teams from Lewis, and that's something I've been doing with Bob to train them up. So we've actually been experimenting with what I'd call a normal small handyman style of contractor and teaching them about, Bob and I have been laying lime floors using recycled glass bases. We've been talking about lime renders, lime paints. What one does about windows in a state of 115 cottages with listed windows, which is such part of the views that need renovation. The ability to introduce double glazing, the width of glazing bars, all the numerous little questions. But we have been trying to train up on the job small local teams that we're then using on project after project, from Firle Place right through to little 2-bedroom cottages, as you mentioned. But it's always you have to be very, very creative and imaginative how you do it on a sensible budget.
Interesting. Thank you. Oh, Bob.
Just quickly to add a little to that. I mean, I think we've all got experience of employing contractors in our own homes, haven't we? And actually, for an estate, it's no different. You know, finding good people is incredibly hard. That are affordable and you can then hang on to and go back to and all the rest of it. I suspect the people we're training up will be charging someone else a fortune in the future and we'll be looking for someone else.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, colleagues, for your questions as well. I think I'll move us to the recommendation now. So could I ask, please, for a show of hands, if you're happy to endorse the Firle Estate whole estate plan? Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Thank you, Will and Bob, for coming in, for your time, for your energy and commitment in producing the plan. And thank you so much to Mark and to Nick for all your advice and guidance. So, thank you. End of the process, the start of the work. Thank you. Right, we'll move on to item 14, and we've got Vicky and Bruno joining us. Welcome. Well, thank you both very much for another very full and informative annual report. So over to you for a few comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. This is our annual report covering all our work in HR and health and safety, and this goes from the 1st of April 2024 to the 31st of March 25. So I appreciate we're 6 months on after that period, but that's worth noting. And the report is, we're asking the committee, recommending that they note the update on the authority's key work in HR, and also agree that it's satisfied with the authority's health and safety activity over the last 12 months, complies with its health and safety policy. So I have Bruno here, who's our health and safety advisor, who works with me on the health and safety. What the report covers is in section 1.4, and I'm sure you've all read the very lengthy report, but I thought it might be worth just going through some key highlights. In section 2 covers recruitment, and thought it'd be worth noting or drawing attention to the fact we've introduced 2 new additional staff benefits. The electric vehicle salary sacrifice scheme and also heat scheme, which is providing advice to staff on how they can make their homes more economical and also impact on their carbon footprint. So we've only just launched it in April, so we'll be able to sort of come back to you and give a report, but that's been well received. We've had a lower turnover rate this year, which actually shows we do have a stable workforce in terms of people leaving the organisation. But we've also had quite a lot of internal movement as well. So we've had 7 people who have moved around the organisation, have been promoted. So there are sort of changes within the organisation. Section 3, health and safety. So we had an internal audit and we received substantial assurance from that audit, which was really positive. We've introduced a few new things. We've introduced a new duty manager protocol, which supports our support services staff and our frontline staff. So that's been really well received and it's working well. We've had an increase in reporting of incidents and near misses, which is actually positive because it shows that people are reporting, but none of those accidents that were reported were RIDDLE, so the reportable accidents, so they are of a low level. We also introduced health surveillance for our range teams on hand and arm vibration screening and audiometric screening as well, so that's something we've done. Wellbeing, we still have a really strong focus on staff health and wellbeing, and we've now we've run a number of lunch and learn sessions on neurodiversity, for example, hearing loss, and we've also set up a new culture and wellbeing group as well. So that's well attended. I think Sean attends that group, so it's across the whole organisation. In terms of sickness statistics, which you'll see in the appendices, we haven't had any reports of work-related stress, which is positive. We have had an increase in numbers of days sickness, but that was very much impacted by a very small number of individuals who were off with major illness and non-work-related stress. So that has skewed the figures somewhat because we've got a higher long-term absence reporting. We did have a big increase in coughs and colds, so we sent a strong message out to staff that they should work from home if they come in and they're full of cold, and also it's to protect vulnerable staff, protect staff who have vulnerable relatives at home as well, so we've sent that message out. EDI, I have referred everybody to the paper that we brought to the committee in February, because we did actually expand quite a lot on what we're doing in the area of recruitment. We then only had sort of 6 weeks between then and the end of this report, so we'll be reporting back in more detail at the next committee meeting next year on the progress. But we have started on some of those initiatives, particularly on working on our external, on our website and our external recruitment page, of making that much more accessible. So I'm nearly there. And then on the learning development side, we've run some workshops to all staff on how to deal with unacceptable behaviour and sexual harassment. We do now have a new duty as an organisation to take reasonable steps to prevent sexual harassment. So all our staff attended these 2-hour sessions. It was really helpful because it went through the policy, it reassured staff that we take it seriously as an organisation, that the support is there, and it was very well received. So we have actually managed to get the entire organisation through that training, which was an achievement. So that's it. I don't know, Bruno, if you've got anything to add, or we'll wait for the questions. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Okay, colleagues, I think I'll take this by section, actually, so that if we get into a particular area, we can all turn our minds to that. If we start by looking at recruitment activity and turnover, any questions on this? And John, did you want to reprise your question earlier, or are you satisfied with the paper?
Oops. Only in, well, the question, because you weren't in the room, was that do we have any statistics on where staff leave, what departments, and I ask that only to see if there's a pattern emerging. So if there's perhaps one particular department where the workload is what sends people fleeing for the door, or any other reason. And similarly, picking up on what Vanessa was saying, I suppose it'd be quite interesting to know where nobody ever leaves, to see if there's a pattern there.
So, we had 10 people that left the organisation. They were split across. We do carry out exit interviews. So when somebody leaves, we always do an exit interview to make sure that we are monitoring why people are leaving. The majority of people are leaving because we're quite a small organisation, so there's not always those opportunities, although we try and move staff around. So a lot of them have gone to partner organisations, maybe where there were different opportunities for them. So those were the main reasons. I don't have figures as such in terms of numbers because they're quite low numbers. But we had no red flags or concerns from any of the exit interviews we've done this year in terms of there being a specific area where people were leaving over and above other areas. I'm sorry, what was the second part?
That was it. It was about, reasons for leaving, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah,
and
thank you.
Picking up on Vanessa's point, is there areas where nobody ever leaves?
Oh, yes, yes. Areas where no one ever leaves.
Okay. HR. We've all been here a long time. So apart from HR, I think we have normally quite a healthy turnover rate. It's been particularly low this year. It's been much lower than normal. I think because probably everyone's excited to see what's coming up. We've had, I think people are saying there are some exciting opportunities. That might be why less people have left. It might be our health and well-being is really strong. There could be a number of reasons, but it was much lower this year. Normally it's around 12 or 13%. But it's good to have a healthy turnover. But I think this year we've had also internal opportunities for people. So people about sort of, as I mentioned earlier, 7 people have moved around the organisation. So instead of leaving, they've had other opportunities. And we've had some additional externally funded posts as well.
I think as well, probably the benefits package is really positive, isn't it? When you look down the list and see it summarised, and particularly with the 2 additions as well, it's a very strong package, quite attractive, I should imagine. Okay, Vanessa.
It wasn't a question. I just wanted to say well done for all the kind of, it's been a big year in terms of recruitment that you've been doing and working with external people. Well done.
Yes, yeah, here. So we move on to health and safety. It's a section here. If I can kick off, Bruno, I was really interested to see the work that you've been doing with the Rangers, and it just raised a question for me because I noticed this summer there was one heat stroke incident reported. If the climate continues to go the direction we think it probably is, I was just thinking about skin testing, protection for outdoor workers. And I just wondered if that was something that had come into the minds of the health and safety team.
Thank you, Chair. It's a good question with regards to the skin testing. We can do, so we can approach the contractor we use to do the first tests that we've run this year. We can ask them. If not, we can search for a different provider for that. But we can. Okay. We've never been raised until now.
No. It might not be something that staff are concerned about, but for duty of care, I would have thought it's important for outdoor workers. That's all.
Can I just add, it's very useful at the Health and Safety Committee, every quarter, we look at all the incident reports, so it's always evolving, and I think we are always looking at new areas that we flag up and how we kind of mitigate the risk of happening. So I think we did at the time when we had the heat stroke, we looked at the hours that people were going out, particularly some of the volunteers as well, making sure that actually sometimes activities were just cancelled and we weren't expecting people to go out when it was 30, 35 degrees. So we do a lot of work around that as well.
No, that's good. Thank you. Any other questions on the health and safety section or on any of the data that's appended? Vanessa?
Yeah, I was just going to bring up, we were chatting earlier about Seven Sisters. And Bruno, I heard that you have been visiting there. Thank you. I've got a real concern about people walking through the river mouth. What's your view on that? What have you been looking into that?
Thank you for the question. With regards to Seven Sisters, it's a bigger project. Every year, that is always the same since we acquired. With regards to the river mouth crossing, so I've been there actually a couple of weeks back. So we have a project at hand with comms to improve signage and all the notice boards we have. Ruth and the comms team are basically meeting with everyone involved because I know we don't own the river and then there's the extent of the beach we actually have something to do with. We're quite limited. So what I've basically done, so I provided all the guidance that we do have because there's a standard in terms of beach safety signage we have to provide. So the Roof's team has all of that and we will have new boards in place. We cannot instruct people where to go because that will make us liable because we're instructing you should do this such a part, but we will have information about it, including the idea was to have some QR codes that will have the tide entrance so people know when is suitable, but we cannot just say you must do this or you must not do because that will make us liable for it.
Yeah, no, I'm just, because I'm going to go to Seaford Town Council tonight to have a chat with their committee that looks after this, so it's just quite nice to know, yeah, what's going on so I can kind of communicate that. Thanks, Bruno.
Tim.
Chair, thank you. And it just reminded me of mentioning Seaford Town Council. So there's a meeting already in the diary between ourselves, Seaford Town Council and Wealden, who own the land, to look at the sort of measures that Bruno's described. And they broadly fall into two camps. One is the sort of very health and safety orientated, and the other, as you've heard, is from comms about more advisory on why it's sensible to do this and why it's encouraging to go and look at what's around the corner, i.e. the visitor centre and all the rest of it. So there's two very distinct strategies. And also there's been a lot of work on social media as well, but we're looking to join forces with Wealden and Seaford Town Council on that. That does come with a proviso that we're advised by the experts, be careful how you work on social media, TikTok, etc., because it might be seen as a challenge. So there's a lot of sensitivity about that messaging. But the most important thing is this is a shared partnership working approach to how we get more safety down there. And the meeting is in the diary with those partners.
Thank you. And I think earlier on in the meeting, we did have a question about cliff safety as well. And a couple of members, I think, were asking about the cliff safety partnership. I can't remember. Yes, it was Arthur, wasn't it, who's had to leave. So I'm glad I remembered that on his behalf. Are you involved in that, Bruno, or not?
I'm afraid I'm not part of that work group. So part of the visit I had with Sam down at Seven Sisters, we included a visit to the cliffs. It's a difficult one. Mm-hmm. You know, the paths are clearly outlined. They're further away from where the cliffs are, but people being people, not to say other words, they go far too close for that photo or Instagram post they want to do. But it is a tough one for us at the moment. It's mainly using social media and the team informing whoever's visiting the site about like how it should behave in those sites.
Yeah, thank you. Tim, did you want to add?
I think, again, it's very much trying to work in partnership. So there's the Cliff Safety Group that Claire Kerr and Claire Tester both, Claire Kerr and Claire Onslow, get the Claires right, attend and are active in that. And they've been looking at all sorts of things around grazing. There's evidence that grazing can adjust human behaviour, which is really interesting. We've been talking about very low-key fencing, but there's very much cons as well as pros on that, because it gives an idea that it is safe to a degree. So they're looking at all sorts of practical measures and ways. And then there is the suicide prevention group, of which there are a myriad of partners, the chaplaincy, the church, the statutory agencies, as you'd expect, and various volunteer groups. And I know that Claire Kerr has got a meeting with them tomorrow, because everybody's just taking stock after a very, very busy summer period.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. Vicky.
Thank you. It was off the back of the heat stroke comment earlier on, and I'm thinking about ranger danger or dangers to rangers, however you want to phrase it. But presumably, it's presumably it's just best practice and advice and guidance. But I was mindful of things like ticks and Lyme's disease. So is advice provided in terms of possibly new rangers coming and training up in terms of awareness of those kinds of hazards? Thanks.
Thank you for the question. So, yes, we do have an induction process for all the teams, not just for the Rangers. It includes ticks and Lyme disease. And we usually send, so after each of every quarter after the committee meets, the Health and Safety Committee, we send a newsletter. So it's always available on the intranet, and everyone will have access to that. So when it comes to the ticks season, usually that's the sort of information we would share with the teams.
Thank you. And just a very quick question. You've talked in the paper in the last bullet in 3.13 about a special health and safety survey to staff in this year. Normally it's part of the whole staff survey, isn't it? And I just wondered what the latest plans were with regard to that.
So yeah, what we tend to do is do a more frequent check-in on health and safety rather than just doing, because we do the broader staff survey every 3 years. We do cover health and safety, but not in the same amount of detail.
Oh, okay.
So this internal survey is actually going to be drilling down quite a lot into how, or has done, because we've already rolled it out, into how we keep staff as safe as possible at work. So it will be much more detailed.
Yeah.
So we run it separately.
Great. Thank you. No, that's really good, really helpful. Moving on then to the wellbeing section. Any questions on that? My only comment is I really do hope you get some colleagues from OMT to become trained mental health first aiders, because managers very frequently benefit from peer support, perhaps rather than going to someone else in the organisation where they might feel a bit exposed or whatever.
Yes, so we have, well, I'm one of the mental health first aiders, Sean is a mental health first aider, and Ruth James, we've asked for her to do the training, so she will also be. So we'll have 3 people.
Oh, that's
three
good.
people on there.
Yeah. No, I just read it and I thought, I wondered if that was a plea for more OMT members. That was all. But it's I obviously misread. I read more into it than you intended. But that's good to hear. Thank you. Moving on, equity, diversity and inclusion. Any questions on this section? Yes, Vicky.
Yeah, at 5.8, I think that's really brilliant. You've got an EDI hub on the internet now so that staff can access learning resources and webinars. Presumably they can dip in and dip out. And I love the knowledge nugget as well. Is it being successfully used? Are you able to sort of monitor and measure how, if it's being successfully used, I suppose?
I'm not sure if we're able to monitor traffic on our intranet. It is something we need to refresh, actually, and we've got an EDI meeting scheduled soon. So it's been really helpful to have staff coming forward and speaking about their own experiences. And in fact, we've had a member of staff here who's run one of our lunch and learn sessions as well. So it's not just about the knowledge nuggets, but also we're trying to get staff involved and engaged and running sessions. So,
Thanks, Vicky. Thank you. And learning and development, any questions about that? Yes, Kat.
I sort of just had more of a comment that I think that's an impressive range of kind of core skills that such a small organisation is laying on. You know, there's 11 and it's covering quite a wide range, so well done. I did wonder, but this is only because it's in my mind because of this morning, whether, sorry Richard, we needed to have some sort of national park, how you should use AI as part of the national park, given that it's quite a hot potato at the moment and just in my head. But that was just to put it out there.
Thank you. Yeah. We had, just for your info, Vicky and Bruno, we had a member briefing session this morning on AI, and we're all absolutely full of AI questions now. So it's coming up in every single agenda item, whether it's relevant or not, actually. But no, thanks for that, Kat. Thank you. I just had an interesting question, and it sounds really mean, and I'm not normally a mean person, but the organisation has supported employees through professional development and FE courses, which by their nature can be quite expensive, you know, if they're 1 or 2 year or longer. And I wondered if we had any kind of payback expectation if the member of staff leaves within a year or within 2 years. You do? All right.
absolutely. If any course is over £1,000, we have a payback period and they have to sign a training agreement. So if they leave within a certain period of time, we get the money back.
Yeah,
so,
brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it feels mean, but actually I think it's right and fair as well. So thank you very much. And then moving on to the final sort of 2 sections we'll take together, working with the other national park authorities and priorities and actions for 25-26. Any questions or comments on that? I only have one question about apprenticeships. Am I right? Have we got 1 apprentice at the moment?
So at the moment, we do have an apprentice that we've hired, but we have someone we took on board that is finishing the apprenticeship of one of the rangers. And we're in the process of actually starting next week. We have, next week, so Monday, we have 3 new ranger apprentices joining us.
Oh, that's really good. Excellent. No, that's good news. Thank you. Well done. Okay. I'll move to the recommendations then. Oh, sorry, Sean.
That's all right.
You've been waiting to talk.
No.
I've just been ignoring you.
No, I just wanted to reiterate Vanessa's thanks to the HR team. It's been an incredibly busy year. Thanks for your support to me and to SLT. And there's lots, it's a big report, it's very busy. There are lots of other things that are not in here that HR have helped us with, which have been fantastic. And particularly Bruno for keeping us safe. But for the person who's ultimately responsible, thank you so much for getting the health and safety right. I'm glad of it every day, and I'm very reassured to have you there. So thank you very much.
Thanks for doing that, Sean. Thank you. Okay, colleagues, can I move us to the recommendation then? All those in favour? Thank you very much. Thank you both again. Thanks for your time. And thanks to the rest of the team as well. Okay, moving on. Welcome to Hayley and team. I think, colleagues, we've seen procurement papers in quite a number of different forms over the years, so I think we know what to look out for and what to expect. So over to you, Hayley. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, we've come today to seek approval to commence a procurement process for specialist planning advice covering landscape, ecology and archaeology. So since 2013, the South Downs National Park Authority has relied on service level agreements with East Sussex and Hampshire County Councils to provide expert consultation for planning applications. However, both councils have indicated they cannot guarantee continued provision beyond April 26 due to internal restructuring, creating uncertainty for our planning function. So to ensure continuity and maintain the quality of our planning service, we propose establishing a new framework agreement or agreements through a competitive tender process, which due to the total value will be subject to the full rules of the Procurement Act 2023. So the framework will be divided into 6 lots, covering each specialism and location. Dividing the tender into lots allows suppliers with the most relevant expertise to bid for the areas where they add the greatest value. So this will hopefully encourage smaller companies to bid, which wouldn't be able to cover the whole of the framework. And it's also in line with the aims of the new Procurement Act. So the estimated annual value is £65,000, with a total value of £260,000 over the 4-year term. So with committee approval, we will commence the tendering process to allow sufficient time for the new framework to be in place before April 26. And I have Jill and Rob here today to help with any questions. So if you do have any, please do let us know. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thank you, Hayley. Any questions? Yes, Stephen.
So we would pay by the hour for this advice. Is that how it works? Oh, and...
I think currently it is being paid by the hour, so yes.
Yes, Vicky and then Kat.
Thank you, thanks. At 1.6, it says a review of the provision and methodology used with the current SLAs being undertaken ahead of going out to tender. And then in 4.1, it says it is intended to publish the tender notices and documents in late September 2025 to allow sufficient time to award the lottery contracts. My question is, we are whatever we are in the middle of end of September now. Is that enough time, or has it progressed significantly enough to allow that diligence? Thank you.
Yep, so in our discussions that we've had, we've come up with this new lotting system. So we've been discussing this for several months now, and obviously we wrote the report a while ago, and apologies for the omission in amending that item there, that reference there. But yes, we have done a lot of work to review what we're doing and try and get the best solution for the authority.
So it's in shape that's ready to go now in order to get that late September. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Kat?
This might just be me being silly, I'm not sure. But under number 6, you've got a table with likelihood and impact and numbers. I just wondered what the numbers mean. Because I don't know sort of which way they're going and what they're out of, or...
So yeah, when we write the reports, actually, there is another table that goes with that, which explains exactly what that means. So I don't know if, Richard, we're able to show where the numbers are and the likelihood and what the impact, yeah?
The numbers in the table, and item 6, wasn't it, you were referring to, Kat, they're exactly the same as used in the risk register.
Ah, right. I didn't know. I just didn't know whether that was the case. Right, I knew it would be a silly
just
question.
To clarify.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think the 6-lot structure sounds really sensible as well. It'd be really interesting to see what you get back. The only thing is it's going to multiply the workload in terms of shortlisting, potentially, yeah. Okay, oh yes, Laura.
Thanks, Chair. Quick question. I understand that the total value of the lots is estimated at 65,000. Is there any potential that it could go over that in any one year?
I think the current market research we've done, and that's mainly based on the quotes with the original SLAs, indicates that the value should be around there. Obviously, until those bids are back, we can't commit that it won't be in excess of that. What we can do, and what we will do, is use evaluation criteria to maintain a cost. So we will evaluate all bids based not only on their quality, but on the cost element as well.
And just to add to that, we have added in a bit of contingency in that 65,000 as well. We are reliant on how many planning applications we get in and how many of those need landscape ecology and archaeology consultation. So it's a bit, we do have to do a little bit of guesswork based on previous figures and numbers of applications. So it could go over that. We don't tend to go very close to that figure at the moment, but we're anticipating things are changing, BNG, more ecology support and everything else, so we have factored in that contingency.
And thank you, Jill. Can I just check then, if a planning application includes the need for a lot of advice under one of these headings, do we charge more for that?
Thank you, Chair. No, not at the moment. So the planning application fees are set by a national structure, so they're the same for whatever authority you have. That is meant to include consultation fees and cover the whole service end to end. What is coming is local fee setting, and that means that as a planning authority we can set our planning application fees with the evidence to support it. A big part of that is how much does it cost us, including costs such as this.
Right, thank you. So this is really helpful data to back up, yeah? Thank you. John?
Just as a point of clarification, 1.3 says both East Sussex County Council and Hampshire County Council. And then on 1.5, it talks about Hampshire and Sussex. So are you including West Sussex in Sussex as just a sort of hoovering up, assuming that West Sussex is going to be the same mindset as the other two?
I think we had an eye on devolution when we were looking at lotting up. So East and West Sussex, we were treating it as one and Hampshire as one. It felt the easiest way for us to lot it up. If members are minded to say that we need to split it up further to East Sussex, West Sussex and Hampshire, we would absolutely look at that. But be mindful that that would increase the workload by another third.
John?
So have we had an assurance from West Sussex County Council that they would continue this service?
At the moment, the service is provided by Hampshire and East Sussex. Hampshire provide the service to cover West Sussex. Sorry, that wasn't clear. So that's why we've separated it the way we have.
Yeah, I think with an eye on devolution, it makes sense to do what you've done. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Okay, colleagues, are we content then to approve the commencement of the procurement process and delegate authority to the Chief Executive to award the framework? Show of hands. Thank you very much. Unanimous again. Thank you all very much for that. Oh, Vanessa.
Can we have a little break? I just need to move. Is that all right? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we've got
I've just...
one more item.
I know, but it could be a long one.
Okay, go on then.
Is that all right? Do you
Yes.
mind? I think it's quite
Yes.
healthy to move.
5 minutes. Is that right? Yeah. It's going to finish. Thank you. Thanks, Hayley. Thanks, Robert. Thank you. Okay, welcome back, colleagues. We've got one more item to go, and that's item 16, which is on Seven Sisters Country Park, and it's the Q1 performance report. Tim is here to answer questions for us. I don't know if you want to say anything.
First of all, huge apologies. I'm afraid you got me, but that's because Claire Onslow is on a well-deserved 2-week break after a hell of a 2 quarters. So I want to thank her and the team publicly while I'm here. Secondly, you've got the report before you. It's structured around the business plan that you should be familiar with, having approved it in March, around the 3 broad areas of exemplary land management, first-class visitor experience and financial stability. It is slightly out of date. I'll take it as read that you've read the report, but I just want to update on behalf of Claire, but I'm delighted to say that there is now a full staff complement. So not only does this mention 1 new member of staff, but Sam Corduroy, who's been with us some time, is having a phased return to test that, which is excellent. We have also kept the other Sam and is on a 3-year contract paid for through the Countryside Stewardship. Isadora has joined us as the events, and there's a whole series of events arranged for October, and then the big Christmas market, which is both a fantastic community event and a good income earner and a good way to showcase what we're about. And I just want to also mention that in terms of the exemplary land management, that we are really pleased, and I hope anybody who's been down there has seen, it's been an incredible year, whether it's for the butterflies, the dragonflies, the improvement to the water management there and the dew pond restoration. And I'm even told, well, we've seen the pictures, the damselfly that was there, which apparently is a really good sign of what's going on. So the land management is really working after 2-3 years of perhaps not seeing it because you have to let the land rest. So everyone's really delighted about that. And I'm also obliged to say, in terms of and it's quite right, we've got the KPIs there based around the business plan, and this is, of course, the first quarter, whereas those are targets for the whole year. But on the ones around visitor spend, this is obviously Q1. Please do wait for Q2. And you'll have had your report earlier that things are looking positive in that regard in terms of the income being generated. And the other 2 that are red in relation to, I've got to look at the paper here, the Miles Without Styles pages and the educational pages on the internet, that was always going to be a Q3-4 thing because we had to manage the huge increase in visitor numbers that you're all aware of. Last point I'll make is we are very aware, and I was just listening to the Firle estate. That was really interesting. There's another estate grappling with connectivity, grappling with car parking and coaching, and what is their raison d'etre. And you'll see in here that discussion has happened, and it's a shame Mark's not here. The advisory group have been really helpful in just considering how we manage nature with an enormous amount of access that's taking place, and what issues there might be and how we manage those going forward. So those conversations have begun with the advisory group, and I'm sure we'll discuss them here too. But happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Tim. Any questions? Yes, Mark.
Right, thank you. 3 points. Not sure if one of them's been half answered by Tim already, but first of all, wanted to say, can you please convey our thanks to the staff at Seven Sisters, for having had such a busy summer so far. Second point, this is the second bullet point on page 238. Mentions a reduction in staff capacity. Has that now been solved?
Staff capacity? Yes, it has. I've just referred, there's a full staff complement now, and there's also an exercise going on, and I should thank my colleagues to my right here, in terms of what that potential extra income that's looking good at the moment could do in terms of making sure we're suitably staffed going forward. In other words, now they've got a full complement and are able to work out what their roles are, and that includes 2 car parking attendants. What, if any, extra resource is required to cope with the sort of levels we saw in terms of visitors going forward, and how might that best be employed, i.e. temporary, because it's a peak and a trough.
Third point, looking at the accounts and the surplus above budget that was generated in the first quarter, I was wondering whether it's not sensible to put that into a reserve because, right, we've had a nice summer, but sure as night follows day, we're going to get a bad summer sometime.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, I'm sure it is. It's being managed carefully.
I will hand over to my colleague, but yes, we're certainly not, what's the word, spending it right now on the basis that it will be there. We know we've got to get through a leaner period. What I will say, and thanks to my colleagues, is that we have profiled it this year to allow for that. So we're more confident than perhaps we have been in the past that the quarterly figures will actually go through the rest of the year.
Thank you. If you have something to add, please do.
Sorry, Richard will probably tell me which particular act it is. Is it the Countryside Act? It actually does require us to ring fence the any surplus income from Seven Sisters as a country park. So we can set that aside, which we'll do at the end of the financial year.
Thanks. Thank you, Vicky. Yeah, so hopefully you'll be reassured, Mark, we're not just spending gaily, but it does have to be reinvested sensibly as well. Thank you. Any other comments or questions on this? Vicky?
Thanks again. Two things. Firstly, I'm really excited to see on page 238, 69 mobility hire bookings. That's really good, isn't it? So it's. I mean, I don't know how unique that is in terms of national parks, but that's really pleasing. But then my other point, at the last bullet point on the same page, and this is my mean moment, Chair, is that what mitigations are in place, and you might have touched on it with Mark's comment about the staffing, but non-compliance of blue badge holders and coaches in the car park. Like, what mitigations are we thinking about to ensure that people do, like, pay and display, do actually pay for the provision? Thanks.
No, good question, and with delicacy. But that is why we've got 2 dedicated car parking staff who have just joined, who are having some training on how to enforce in the best and most pleasant way, which is aligned with our visitor management. So, but it's actually having a dedicated resource is the feedback we got that knows how to deal with these things, and particularly on the coaches. That's where we need to focus the efforts.
Great, Kat.
I said a small one. On page 241, under the bit cottages occupancy rate, it then lists, the percentage of occupancy. And then in brackets it says camping occupancy, 58% not included in that 42% figure. That 58% is a really positive figure. And I can't see it listed anywhere else. It should probably have its own little line because it's quite a good figure, really, and it's sort of hidden.
Thank you, I would agree. Yeah, we'll take that forward.
Any other questions? I mean, just to... Oh, Laura, sorry.
Not a question directly related to the information in the report, but more just something that the really positive news about the increase in visitor numbers generated, which is, do we have any mechanisms to capture contact details, emails from any of our visitors? Just thinking we're getting these increased visitor numbers, it'd be great to have some way to capture information so that we could follow up with them. I don't know if there's kind of like QR codes we could have in our shops or what have you to say, do you want to sign up to the newsletter, find out more about events? I'm just wondering if there are any mechanisms that we're using to kind of capture these people and then feed them information on an ongoing basis.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're looking into it. There is a mechanism. We've got telemetry, and I know that Andy Gattick has been looking at this in terms of across the park. It's about... I don't understand it completely, but basically you can get into people's phones without invading their privacy and work out where they are. Well, we all know we can, and I know exactly. No, but this is reasonable kit that is used and can help in terms of building up that picture profile. It's already out there, to be honest. That's how all the algorithms work.
Thank you. Yes, would you like to? Yes.
I just think we'll take... I think that's a really good point, Laura, in terms of how we start to build up a database. I'm not sure we do have a database of visitors. I mean, some of them don't come through our visitor centre, they just walk around and it's quite difficult. But those that do, or even, you know, who are, if, like you say, we could put a QR code out there, I think it'd be a really interesting thing to follow up. And also, given Vanessa's question and concern about the sort of safety issues, how we use that to communicate to people as well, I think. So we should take that away, I think. Really good.
Yeah. Vanessa?
But it's also community building. Yeah. So it's like you can be part of this community, Seven Sisters community, yeah? Because I think actually people really want to be part of that. That's why they're coming down and doing that walk. Can I do my question now?
You can. Yes.
So I wanted to really understand the seasonal planning that's going to happen, because this on item number 4, so the first class visitor destination seasonal planning, like this year's been extraordinary, the number of visitors and the impact on the landscape. I was like looking online, I've got a picture that I showed a few of us earlier, like the impact on the landscape, like the massive white path that's now being created all along those cliffs, and just the problems that we've got. I live in that area. I've been down, I mean, I've bored everybody about it, but you know, I've been helping out that car park all summer. So I've seen this. It's like we need, this is not like, yeah, getting together with the people already in the area and just chatting and let's come up with a little plan. This is like we need to talk to people who are already managing this scale of attraction. So I was talking to someone from English Heritage a couple of weeks ago who, like, they do Stonehenge. They had that problem with Stonehenge. What was their approach to that? This is like multi-year thinking. And I just want to see that. I just want to see that. And, you know, there's people already doing it. We don't have to invent it ourselves. Let's go and find that information. Let's get some experts in. But this has to happen this winter. Like, it's really, really important because we're going to have accidents. We've got communities we've got to look after. And make this the first-class visitor destination, you know. So I really want to see that. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thanks. Anyone else? No? I'm just going to follow up Tim on one item which came up in our audit discussions. And there was an outstanding audit action for the Seven Sisters Country Park manager around cash handling policy and procedure. The target date for it was 30th of July 24. And we were just, as members, asking questions, but of course no one was here to answer, and you may not know the answer. But I wondered if you could perhaps take that back, please. Thank you. Yes, John.
Earlier we were also, I also raised the issue of the Midhurst shoring up. Again, we would refer to Tim when he came to the room about where we were with Midhurst, the insurers, and moving the whole thing on. And I don't know if Tim's got anything to report on that.
Yeah, unrelated to Seven Sisters, obviously, but just catching up while you're here.
Yeah. Gear shift. It's good, some good news, and I think you'll be aware it's been with the insurers for some time, but we have recovered all the money we expected from the owners of the hotel. So they have paid for the scaffolding, and the amount they paid is what we agreed they would pay. And given that we had paid for that along with Chichester, and I think a little bit from West Sussex, that money's recovered. So that's good news. However, because of the insurance position with the owners of the building next door, we're actually at an appeal with them around the obtaining of the money back from the scaffolding. I suspect because they haven't got an insurance deal to pay it back. So we're currently in the courts with them. But we are progressing getting all the monies back on that.
And presumably we can't move ahead with planning what to do with that site until all this is resolved.
We have had some very preliminary discussions. They can move ahead as they see fit, and we are encouraging that. And we've had a discussion with Historic England in the room about what's the art of the possible. But it's in their hands, and of course, until they've had their insurance payout, they are probably not as minded to go as fast as others would like to see.
Thank you, colleagues. Can we just move to the recommendation then, please?
Can I just say?
Sorry, Sean.
That's all right.
Do.
I've just got little things at the end I want to say. I just want to say, I mean, first of all, a huge thanks to the team at Seven Sisters, I think, just to reiterate that. It's been an incredible year, and there's been a lot of challenges, and they haven't been fully staffed, and they've really pulled it out of the bag. It's been fantastic, and I think, you know, when you see people there enjoying it, it's a real buzz, and we've really, you know, we must use that as an opportunity. But I also really want to thank the people who have volunteered on the car parks, and some of them. I mean, Vanessa, you've been, you know, I think you've got many, many credits there. But some people also who came from right the other side of the park, you know, maybe drove 2.5, 3 hours, spent the whole day and drove 3 hours back. Really, really fantastic dedication, and I know the team at Seven Sisters have really, really appreciated that, and it's made a big difference. When I was there, a farmer from up the road, I can't remember his name now, Richard, was on his quad bike, stopped and came out and just said, thank you so much, it makes such a difference. So I know the community really appreciate it as well. But I just want to put that on
Great.
record if I can.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, colleagues, then move to the recommendation. A show of hands, please, if you're happy to accept the report. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you all. I now declare the meeting closed. Thanks to everyone for their participation.